shoulders.
We'll call to order tonight's Committee of the Whole for the July 20th, 2021 meeting. The council should have your minutes of the Committee of the Whole from July the 6th, 2021. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion carries. Green Space Advisory Board, Mayor Pro Tem Witten.
Yes, sir. We have two vacancy. Term begins August 8, 2021, ends August 7, 2025. We have one incumbent, Arthur Chapelka. I hope I'm saying that correctly. He served one partial term. Out of just complete transparency, he did not know that he was supposed to reapply, and because he was under a partial term, he spoke to staff and would like to serve a second term. So with the blessings of this council, I would like to nominate him for a first full term.
Second.
Do you have a motion and a second for Mr. Art Chapelka? Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries, and we'll confirm that later on in the agenda.
And Sharon Nichols has served two full terms. I appreciate her service. I would like to nominate James Brady.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second for James Brady. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. We'll confirm that later on in the agenda. Waterworks Board.
Yes, sir. We have one vacancy. Term begins August 8, 2021, ends August 7, 2027. The incumbent, Butch Brock, has served one partial and one full term. He is not seeking a second term. I would like to nominate Thomas Sparrow.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for Thomas Sparrow. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries, and we'll confirm that later on in the agenda. Auburn High School parking. Councilman Dixon.
Yes, we brought this up, I guess, at the last council meeting to discuss this. So I guess I just wanted to kind of see what the council has to say about this. We've had a constituent reach out about their sophomore being the age of 16 and not being able to park. And I understand the rules of Auburn High School. I think that they are fair in the sense that, you know, priority goes to seniors and juniors first. I think the issue, though, is more about the parking that is outside of the school that the students are going to be using. City streets, I've had numerous complaints about students parking on McKinley Avenue, the possibility of students walking from Duck Samford or other businesses and that kind of thing. And so I just wanted to see where we are or what we could potentially do to help solve this problem. It's been a problem I know of for at least 19 years because when I was a sophomore, I parked in Terrace Acres. So,
Sure. All right. City Manager Crouch, I know that there was a meeting that included some neighborhood representatives, some public safety, or
Not about this item.
not about this item?
No.
Okay, excuse me. That's the second item that we might be talking about tonight.
Correct.
You have talked to the leadership of the school system about this?
Absolutely. After Mr. Dixon brought this up, a constituent had reached out to Mr. Dixon and then in turn the entire council. And I spoke with Dr. Herring about it, the school superintendent, and she indicated that she also had information from the same citizen, had reached out to that person. They had had a very good conversation just about the ins and outs of high school parking. But at the end of the day, she also told me the high school has 1,100 parking spaces. At this time, the school board is also aware of this particular parent's concerns. But the schools do not plan on adding any additional parking on the high school property, nor do they have any plans to procure additional parking in the vicinity of the high school. One of the challenges is when they do that, and it's official Auburn City Schools parking that they are encouraging people to park in, they have a responsibility to monitor that parking, to monitor activity of students in that area, to protect them and so on. And this is not something that they're interested in taking on at this time. There are busing options, there are drop-off options, and there are driving options for those who have access to spaces. She did want me to reiterate the schools constantly evaluate what's going on with parking, but this is what their traffic study showed that they needed when it was built. Is what the city knew they were building, and this is kind of where they stand. There was previously an agreement with the Church of the Highlands, and I don't know how formal that was, but students were allowed to park there. The students, as they had done previously in the Terrace Acres neighborhood that Mr. Dixon mentioned, were out there welcome from a trash, garbage, and other shenanigans abound. We'll just leave it at that. Perspective lost their parking privileges at the Church of the Highlands, and that is no more. And so there is no other arrangement. And like I said, she had indicated to me they do not intend at this time to pursue any other arrangement.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from anyone else on the council?
I have a rising sophomore who just turned 16 on Sunday, and I completely respect the city's school's rules. Totally understood. Did not expect her to be able to drive to school, nor would I want her to park as far away as Duck Sanford in good conscience. And I don't believe that's, if we were to even open that can of worms, we open up ourselves to a whole lot of liability. And I just don't think that's our purview. It's the school board's purview. And I think this conversation should be had with the school board because we don't really have any say. And I wouldn't want my daughter to park off campus in any regard, not even as a sophomore, as a junior or senior. And she probably would kill me for saying this, but she'll be gladly riding the bus home in the afternoons because thankfully our school system provides busing. So, and it's a safe mode of transportation. And I just think that we need to allow the school board to focus on their concerns and we focus on ours.
Ms. Whitten, anyone else from the council have a comment?
I don't disagree with Ms. Whitten. The issue that I see is that we're going to have students that are going to park in other areas, and how do we combat that? Do we just let them park there, or because it becomes a city problem when they're not parking at the high school, they're then parking on our city streets and our parks and different places like that. So that's more of what I'm looking at.
In the past, have we had an issue with students parking at Duck Sanford?
Not that I'm aware of. No. Becky Richardson, Parks and Recreation Director, nodded her head no. It is possible that people will park there, as the public does from time to time. They park at Felton Little Park to walk downtown. And one of our challenges with public streets is it's a public street and the public is allowed to traverse, park there unless the council says otherwise. And so I think some of the things we ran in the old high school site, now the junior high, is that once some sort of no parking ordinance is enabled for periods of time or what have you, it impacts the residents as well. We had vetted at the time, and I'm not prepared with full information on this evening, but it is very difficult legally to do residential parking permits just for certain neighborhoods in the city. There's much that goes into that. So a lot of those things were vetted a long time ago when the high school was in a different spot. But one of our biggest challenges is we hear this about university students as well. Well, they live in the same neighborhood and their friends have come to visit and they've parked in front of my house and I don't want them to. Well, one of our challenges is that's public parking. It's the public street. So it's just a constant challenge we face. Duck Sanford, I can also just lend to the fact why our police are always willing to do what I ask them to do. They work many school zones in the city, getting much smaller children right now across busy streets and patrolling school zones to slow traffic down and so on. And from a manpower standpoint, we are not at a place where we have capacity to then block traffic on Glen Avenue to get X amount of high school students across the street. It's a major arterial. We have people who need to get to and from work. They already complain incessantly about school zones and being stopped. People say, I can't get from my house to anywhere in the city without passing through 4 school zones. And so it creates another challenge from a personnel standpoint for us. We will have to put more resources on a major arterial like that, 5-lane, 45-mile-an-hour road. We typically do not like to stop, direct, or control otherwise. The one exception that we made this year was briefly on Donahue because of the Farmville and North College roundabout. We did, toward the end of the school year, have to put an extra officer out there because people couldn't get out of school. It was taking 10 minutes. So that's just a little bit of background.
Crouch, any other comments or questions from anyone on the council? I've just had a recent experience with this. My daughter has just recently finished Auburn High School her sophomore year. She did not have a pass. She did catch rides with friends. She didn't take the bus, but she didn't start driving. I don't believe it was to her junior year. I do know that there are a number of seniors, and it's becoming more common, that graduate mid-year, and that does offer opportunities for new people to get past this second semester. That is certainly going on as well. But I agree with Ms. Witten. The school board is charged with making these decisions for the children of Auburn City Schools, and the school system has employees to make these kind of decisions. And our police have a lot going on every morning between 6:30 and 8 o'clock to get all these citizens to work and safely to the places they need to go. This will be very difficult, I believe, to govern Glen Avenue as we try to let kids back and forth across the street. I think we'd be asking for some problems. Anyone else on the council? So at this time, Megan would, if the city council does not want to move forward with anything, this is the school board's issue. We would hand this off to the school system and the school board to monitor the parking for their schools.
Correct, and Dr. Herring had committed to doing that, and that's where I think she wanted me to emphasize that this is constantly under evaluation.
Sure.
By herself, the principal, and the school board, and they are here. They have heard from the same person directly, and that person has been addressed directly. So, that's what I had to convey. But yeah, there's no action, and it is normal to put things on committee of the whole for you guys to discuss to see what you would or wouldn't like to do.
Okay. All right. Okay. Any questions on the agenda for the city manager? Have anything for us? I'm sorry. Were you not through?
Oh, I was pretty much done. I was going to add something. I wanted
Okay,
to ask about.
I apologize. Go right ahead.
Very good. I know at the last council meeting, I brought up the Juneteenth for the parking lot, and I was wondering when that's going to become, when can we bring it to the city as a whole for a holiday for the entire?
So we are in, as you know, we do a 2-year budgeting process, a biennial budget process. I'll be getting with you guys this week about a quick mid-biennium kind of recap meeting. When you first came into office, the biennial budget had just been adopted, and then we did a mid-biennium, and we did a longer presentation at that time because you were new to our budgeting process. This is a less than 2-hour kind of run through the budget, but one of the highlights that I'll hit and get your nod on at, if the majority of you are good with this, I'll propose in the budget ordinance that'll come before you in August or September, is to add Juneteenth as a holiday. So you would initially discuss it then as a city holiday. And what that involves for you all is you're in essence authorizing me. It will cost us in the range of $140,000 in personnel costs for a holiday. And it's something I'm happy to recommend and propose to you and intended to do so. I just want to make you aware of the cost, because what you're actually approving is me to make that kind of expenditure on personnel costs. It's a little more than an average day for city employees costs us, but remember, we pay overtime for holidays, we have shift work, we have other things, so it costs a little more to do a holiday, and it certainly isn't about the money, it's just for awareness for the council. Okay?
Yeah.
All right.
If I may, I have
Sure.
a couple of agenda changes. As I emailed you Saturday, we amended the agenda. It was initially posted Friday, July 16th, and on Saturday, July 17th, several planning items were inadvertently not included and were advertised for public hearings. So those are all on the dais in front of you, and those will be items, everybody sitting in the council chambers has a revised agenda as you do in front of you. Items 9A3, the Donahue Ridge Phase 8 annexation, 9B1, Donahue Ridge Phase 8 rezoning, 9B2 Woodward Oaks PDD amendment, and 10A5 Woodward Oaks conditional use. The other item is item 8D2, which is just some easements on the consent agenda, has been removed. It's not revised on your agenda, and the reason why it is not revised on your agenda is there are just some minor things that need to change about that document, and those things started happening late Friday night, and as they hit my desk yesterday and today, we have tried to be accommodating, but we need to be sure that that plat is final before we ask you to accept some easements, so we need 2 weeks to regroup on that.
Okay.
And I'll remind you again during the regular agenda about these items.
Thank you. Any questions from the council on what Ms. Crouch just shared with us? Okay. Is there a move to adjourn the committee of the whole?
So moved.
We adjourn. This time we'll call to order the regular city council meeting for July the 20th, 2021. Roll call, Valerie.
Dawson,
Here.
Dixon,
Here.
Griswold,
Here.
Hovey,
Here.
Parsons,
Here.
Smith,
Present.
Taylor,
Here.
Witten,
Here.
Anders.
Here. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance and then for a moment of silence? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, normally in the first meeting of the month, we recognize our Employee of the Month and Service Awards, and this month we're going to do it on the second meeting of the month. So, Greg?
Today, we'd like to introduce you to our July Employee of the Month and many of our other employees who've done an outstanding job for a number of years here at the City of Auburn. Today, we'd like to introduce you to our July 2021 Employee of the Month, and I have a memorandum that was authored by Katie Robinson, our Acting Planning Director, to Scott Cummins, Executive Director of Development Services, and to Megan McGowan Crouch, our City Manager. It isn't often that a planner can hit the ground running, especially in Auburn, given the complexity of our zoning ordinance. Logan Kipp joined the planning department as a staff planner in September of 2017 and was a very quick study of our ordinance, our subdivision regulations, and comp plan. Along with that, he has realized over a half dozen major personal and professional accomplishments in less than 4 years. During Logan's first year, he completed his master's degree in urban and regional development. He began taking on more responsibilities, and his analytical skills were vital in the Harper Avenue and Glen and Dean focus area studies. During this time, he assumed responsibility for the biannual update of the Auburn Interactive Growth Model. Throughout the next year and a half, Logan received his professional planner certification and continued to assist on lengthy long-range planning initiatives, including the Cox and Wire Road focus area study and the refinement of our downtown development and design guidelines. His dedication, drive, and accomplishments over the past year is what I am most proud of. Logan began serving as a staff liaison for the Historic Preservation Commission in August 2020 and was promoted to principal planner of the long-range planning the next month. Already short one staff member due to Logan's promotion, another loss was soon to follow, that of our longtime director. The entire planning staff stepped up their game, but Logan gained the bulk of the planning responsibilities, providing guidance and assistance for new developments. Logan is performing above and beyond what was expected and continues to take on more and more, all the while continuing his education in pursuit of an engineering degree. He is a self-starter, driven, hardworking, and a team player. For all these reasons, I am pleased to have this opportunity to formally thank Logan for his hard work and to nominate him for the July 2021 Employee of the Month. Congratulations, Logan. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. At this time, we have a special recognition with our friends from East Alabama.
Council, thanks for letting us come today. Just want to take a few minutes and appreciate the time for a few minutes. I'm Bruce Rutten, Vice President Support Services at East Alabama. It's Christine Hill, and we did a little exercise a few months ago. Actually ended about 5 weeks ago today at the Tuesday morning vaccine clinic. And I don't know that I know everything that the City of Auburn contributed, so it was kept secret from even me. But there's a lot, and I just wanted to publicly recognize the City of Auburn, the council, Megan Crouch, and everybody that was a part of the vaccine center. On January 20th, I met with Mayor Anders and Mayor Fuller in Opelika, and we said that we were vaccinated. We started vaccines in December at our education center, and the vaccine quantities grew, the demand grew. We quickly outgrew our education center. And Ms. Grill, our CEO, came to me, I think it was January 18th, and said, I want to do 1,000 vaccines today in a community vaccine center. I want to go live next week. So quickly realized we need to pull a coalition together. You know, it's wonderful when you pull a team together. It's wonderful when the team members come to play. And Auburn absolutely came to play. We met on January 20th. The mayor gave me his full support, and that just unleashed a number of things. On January 22nd, we secured what we decided Tuesday morning was going to be the place. Megan secured it, secured a lease for that facility. We thought it was going to be a 2-month run. They rolled in, January 22nd was a Friday. They rolled in that Saturday, that whole next week. HVAC upgrades, utility upgrades, cleaned out a whole bunch of debris, got the facility ready, leased dividers from the tailgate guys, and just, I don't know what else they did. They never told me what else they did. We went live on February 1st. Started seeing people by that Thursday, we're seeing 1,000 people a day. And I made 2 phone calls to Megan over that course of time. I made more than that, but 2 that I remember. One was towards the end of February. I said, Megan, we started with a 2-month run. We're going to need to go longer. I said, not a problem. Whatever you need, we've got it. Made another call at the end of March, and I said, Megan, we've got to go even further. I said, not a problem. Whatever you need, we've got it. And the city of Auburn just showed up. I can't explain how well they showed up. Had 2 firemen every day, 2 to 4 firemen every day in the observation area providing medical treatment for patients that had reactions, anxiety, whatever it might be. City of Auburn manned with paid staff the registration tables. So anybody that came, 20 people came through Tuesday morning. All those people at the registration were familiar faces to the City of Auburn every day. For the entire time we were there, they manned those registration tables and provided 4 outstanding people I want to recognize tonight. Paul Register, Rob Rich, John Benefield, and Will Matthews, who I would call kind of the on-site city coordinators. And they owned it. They owned Tuesday morning. They troubleshot with us. There was a lot of troubleshooting those first couple of weeks. Paul, thank you. A lot of troubleshooting, a lot of activity, and I could not have asked for a better team. Like I said, when team members come to play, you cannot lose. So thank you so very much. Through that effort, we touched so many people and saved lives, absolutely saved lives. 91,000, plus or minus a little bit, not much, right about 91,000 vaccines were given Tuesday morning, vaccine clinic. There's people that asked me, could we replicate this in another community? I said, I don't think you could. You can have a vaccine process, but to have that patient-centered vaccine process that we had there was because the people of the community were taking care of their friends, families, and neighbors. And we could not have done it, absolutely could not have done it without your support, Megan, your support, and council. I don't know if you gave your support or not, but thank you so very much.
They did. They were informed along the way and were extremely supportive, Bruce.
Good, good. I raised both my daughters in this community. We love Auburn. I live a little bit north of Waverly now, but we raised our daughters here for a reason. And what I saw at the Community Vaccine Center was that reason. This community is unmatched. When we're faced with a challenge, y'all show up. And thank you so very much. I cannot give you the words of how grateful I am for what you've done. So thank you so very much.
Thank you.
We do have a little token, a little plaque. Put my spectacles on and I'll read it. It says, East Alabama Health presents to the City of Auburn in recognition of your partnership with the East Alabama Community Vaccine Clinic. Thank you for your outstanding leadership and dedication to changing the lives of the people in our community. That last sentence is absolutely true. We change lives.
Thank you, my man.
Thank you.
I appreciate you. Thank
sir.
you very much. You know, in response to this, I want to share this story because I want our citizens to know government is asked to do a lot of things, and in a little while we'll make a lot of decisions, and they impact everyone, individually, your company, your neighborhood, whatever it might be. This was a determination and effort that was going to impact our whole community, and we had no time to plan. We just had time to react. And so I just want to give you some statistics tonight to let you know what your city did on behalf of your community to try to provide us the safest home that we could provide our citizens here in Auburn. As he said, there was a meeting that was myself, Gary Fuller, yourself, Chuck Beams, and there was a determination made that we needed to do this. I came back to City Hall, met with the assistant city manager at that time, Crouch, and the current city manager at that time, Buston. And we were unanimous after about 15 minutes that this was something we needed to put all of our resources behind. After that, our Public Safety Department, our Public Works Department, our Environmental Services Department, along with Lee County Emergency Agency, quickly got together and made a plan. Our city staff, listen to these numbers because I think they're really important and vital for this conversation tonight and for you to understand, you citizens to understand what your city has done this year. City personnel spent a combined 3,150 hours manning registration tables and making sure that all the visitors that walked in that clinic every day were made to feel comfortable and knew exactly where they were going. Public safety worked over 1,100 hours of overtime to make sure that the clinic was a safe place and that all the cars got in and out as they needed to get in and that all the people coming from all walks of life and all ages and stages of life were safely able to be brought in to the clinic. We want to thank our friends at Auburn United Methodist Church, particularly Joe Davis, who played a huge role in coordinating community volunteers. Approximately 1,200 community volunteers stepped up to serve at this clinic, and we counted, it was 8,900 hours of volunteer hours. Awesome. A huge thanks goes to the Auburn Chamber of Commerce. Anna, thank you. And I know Lolly was involved in a lot of this, but it's your organization now. I want to thank you, as well as the Auburn Opelika Tourism Bureau, for keeping all of our volunteers fed. So the people that came to work each day didn't have to leave, go get lunch, because food was brought into them. The Chamber also coordinated with all the local businesses to provide those lunches each and every day. And the tourism made sure that the break room was stocked with drinks and snacks. Understand this, there was an investment made. The City of Auburn wanted to make sure that this community had what they needed to make this work. And so we rented a facility, and we spent $64,000 renting that facility. We spent almost $24,000 transforming a space that was a retail space into a clinic, and we paid $11,585 for utilities. We contributed over $18,000 toward providing volunteers those free lunches each and every day that the Chamber of Commerce helped us with. And we also paid cleaning costs and supplies, bringing the city's financial contribution to $136,000. You know what? That's a lot of money. But when you consider vaccinating 91,000 people, it was a small price to pay to make sure our community was taken care of. I do want to recognize some vendors in our community. All of these vendors were paid, but they stopped what they were doing, and they came and reacted when Paul and his staff called them. Don Allen Construction conducted immediate renovations to the storefront to accommodate the windows and installed a concrete stair and handrail on the front sidewalk. Thank you. Precision Glass replaced the storefront window with a door entrance within just a few days. Top Notch Cleaning did the initial cleaning, the reconditioning of the floor service, and daily cleaning. AO Tourism coordinated all efforts for resources and food suppliers. Comfort Solutions, rapid response upon climate issues. Big Lots, appreciation for patients and shared use of the parking lot. It was kind of crazy out there. And they also helped us with some needed items. And then you mentioned Tailgate Guys, and then Two Men in Truck provided a storage container for items that were removed from Tuesday morning. So a community effort led by some city staff, supported by the medical personnel of the hospital, with partners across the county, made sure that Auburn was the safest place it could possibly be. So this is a great story of what a community can do when it came together. So I think we ought to give all of ourselves a hand.
Anna too while she's here.
Good. I do have one, Miss Anna, if you'd come up, please.
Anna, would you please come forward?
I can only echo the mayor's words, but I can add a little bit more to it. I don't think he ever ate any of the lunches. They were fantastic. We could not have, I mean, we needed all the facility stuff, we really did. We could not have done it without your efforts and the efforts of the chamber and the tourism and all of the people who provided, all the businesses provided food. We could not leave. We had McDonald's. That was it. The Krispy Kreme, we couldn't have Krispy Kreme. It was pretty good, but you can't live off of that. So thank you so very much. I told Opelika I gained COVID-20. With you, I rounded out about a 40. Thank you so very much. You're wonderful, and we absolutely appreciate everything that you do.
It was our pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you all. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Can you get a picture?
Okay. Here you go, Bruce. Thank you. Thank y'all for taking the time for that recognition, and I appreciate East Alabama joining us tonight. And thank you again, Anna, for everything that the Chamber of Commerce did to support this effort. I do have a couple of announcements I'd like to make before we get started. First of all, during the Committee of the Whole, the City Council appointed Mr. Hart Chapelka back to the Green Space Advisory Board and then appointed James Brady to a new term on the Green Space Advisory Board. And the City Council also appointed Mr. Thomas Sparrow to the Waterworks Board. We had a discussion about Auburn High School parking. The City Council will not take any action on that, and will turn this back over to the school board and the school system for their determinations and oversight. And then there was a question brought up about when will Juneteenth be recognized by Mr. Dixon, and Ms. Crouch gave us the information that we'll consider that during the budget time here coming up the next couple of months. Other announcements, I just want to say this past Saturday was a Habitat for Humanity dedication ceremony. If you have not ever been to one of those ceremonies, it is a very special time for a family to receive a home that has been provided for by volunteers of time and volunteers, people who have given money. I was very thankful for the way the community rallied. It's a warm sight to see people of different races and different neighborhoods and different jobs and different interests come together to make one family's life better. I look forward to, I think that was their 70th house, and they'll be working on number 71 soon. Thank you, Ms. Taylor, for joining us that day, and it was a very special morning. Also, on Sunday, I was invited to go over to Ebenezer Baptist Church and recognize Reverend William Muse, W.L. Muse, not William Muse, Dr. W.L. Muse, where he has worked 50 years, preached 50 years at that church, and any pastor of ours that can last 50 years taking care of this community is to be recognized, and there was a special service in his honor, and that was a special day over at Ebenezer, and I appreciate being invited. This week, you might have read that our bond ratings came out, and we were recognized by Moody's as AA2 and recognized by Standard & Poor's as AA+. Those are not easy goals to attain, and it's not easy to stay there. And I want to thank Megan, you and your staff, and Allison and your staff for making Auburn's financial position as strong as it can be. And you help secure our future by allowing us to be sound financially so that we can provide the kind of projects our community wants us to provide. So there's a lot of hard work that goes into that, and I want you to be commended, and thank you for all that. Thank you for that. This past Friday was the service for Miss Jane Moore. Those of you who did not know Jane, she is a pioneer in our community, a pioneer for women's athletics at Auburn University. She was a great, great citizen who cared deeply about this community and will be missed. Next Friday is Cheers on the Corner. I encourage everybody to come downtown and enjoy this event as we get ready for fall. It's July, I believe it's Friday, July the 30th, so it'll be a great time downtown. This past Friday, we had the SGA breakfast, and I appreciate the SGA staff and executive committee coming over and spending time with Megan and I and David and Allison, just talking about things going on at Auburn University and what we'll be looking forward to in the future as we prepare for the fall. And then in our neighborhood, in our memo that we got from the city manager this week, I thought it was interesting. I thought I brought it with me, but there was some praise for our wildflower project. And, we talk about big things that the city does and we make big decisions, but one of my athletic coaches used to always say it's the little things that make a difference in winning and losing sometimes. And I tell you, just seeing those wildflowers and knowing that we took the time to think about that and took the effort to plant those wildflowers and just what they mean as you drive into town on Glen Avenue, I just appreciate all the effort that went into that. And I believe that makes Auburn a different, special place. So thank you for all those people. There was also a neighborhood cleanup that happened recently, and it happened in Brett's ward, so I'm going to let him speak to that right now.
Yeah, I want to thank and acknowledge a laundry list of government or our offices. In the month of June, there was the 10th annual Keep Auburn Beautiful Neighborhood Cleanup Project. The project this year, the 10th, covered a good portion of Ward 4, including Antelope Drive, Thorpe, Burke, and Scotts Woods Drive. Let me just kind of checklist some of the things that were completed during that project. I want to thank Engineering Services. They went through and looked through all the street names and traffic control signs, checking to see the status and replaced 15 worn signs and poles. Environmental Services collected 18.85 tons of bulky waste and yard debris. The Fire Division inspected, cleaned, painted, and tested 32 fire hydrants. Public Works poured 5.5 yards of concrete with more sidewalk to come. Installed 10, almost 11 tons of asphalt for road repairs, swept all streets, collected litter, cut and trimmed vegetation and along the right-of-ways. And Water Resource Management set up a tent to educate the residents in the area about water quality and stormwater runoff. I know there were also some volunteers in the area that helped as well. It was a success, and I'm very thankful, and I know the folks that live in that area are very thankful for all the efforts city staff put into that. I think that's just another reason why we live in such a wonderful city.
Thank you, Brett. I appreciate that. Okay, anybody else on the council have an announcement they'd like to make?
Mayor, I'm going to talk about Auburn 2040.
Sure. Yeah.
So this past week, we had our 2040 kickoff, and if you're not familiar with that, it's a strategic planning process for the next 19, 20 years, and we kicked that off this past week, and we had over 300 volunteers sign up over a very long period of time, from some who signed up the first time before COVID hit, and then re-signed up, and then a lot of new faces. So it was a great group of people, 8 committees. Excited to see what the citizen-led committees come up with in shaping our future. So it was a good kickoff.
Good. Thank you, Ms. Wood. I appreciate you mentioning that. Anyone else on the council have an announcement they'd like to make?
Okay, I have an announcement. On Thursday of this week, July the 22nd, the Northwest Auburn Task Force will resume. We didn't meet the whole year of 2020, I think, the last time we met. We didn't because of COVID. But we're getting ready to start back the task force meetings. And this is not I think this meeting is not on the schedule. I think we had to reschedule this one. Okay, for Thursday, July the 22nd. And the meetings are at Boykin Community Center, and the time is from 6 to 8 p.m. And we will be talking, one of the topics that we will be discussing at the Northwest Auburn Task Force is the 2040 plan and how the African American community can be more involved in it. So we have different topics that we wanted to discuss at this meeting, and our guest speaker for that night will be Reverend Joshua Lewis. And I think some of you that was here at the last council meeting may have gotten a chance to see or meet Reverend Lewis. So
good. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else on the council have an announcement? Okay, we'll move ahead to Auburn University Communications.
Hi everyone, thank you all for having me, giving me the opportunity to speak again at council. I wanted to quickly thank East Alabama Medical Clinic, Chamber of Commerce, the city for that clinic at Tuesday morning. Countless Auburn students got vaccinated there, and I'm not from Auburn personally, but it really does feel like home away from home here. It was really great that vaccination was so easily accessible to students in the whole community of Auburn. And then another thank you to Mayor Anders and City Manager Crouch. We had a great breakfast on Friday. Love getting up early, love meeting with y'all. It's so much fun, it really is. And we're really looking forward to the fall, Auburn 2040, Run on the Lawn, lots of different things going on this fall with the city, and we're very excited about all that.
I think you need to tell them about Ron on the Lawn.
Yes, so Run on the Lawn, we are so excited.
Everybody's excited, see?
Yes, ma'am. It's usually called Milkshakes with the Mayor. I was informed that milkshakes are a little difficult to serve. So we're changing it to cones, novelty ice creams, Ron on the Lawn, on Cater Lawn. So, yeah, we're very excited. It's a working TBD name, but we're excited about it. Yeah, we like it. We like it. Shirts. I'm sure your daughter's very excited.
T-shirts.
Yes, ma'am. So that'll be during Welcome Week. And he can just have the chance to meet with Auburn students, and we're so excited about that. Ron on the Lawn. I'll give more updates about that as time goes on. Another news around the university, Auburn announced, you all might have heard, Spirit, the bald eagle, is retiring. She actually came to Auburn in the late 90s. She was a rescue from Florida, and so she celebrated her 25th birthday this year. And so she's going to be an ambassador to wildlife conservation. Her last flight will be November 13th, and they will have a ceremony at halftime honoring her and her legacy. I love that's one of my favorite traditions that Auburn has. Speaking of football, Auburn University has also set a date for Fall Family Weekend. It'll be September 24th through the 26th. I believe that's the Georgia State game that weekend. This brings a lot of revenue into downtown businesses, Auburn City. We're excited about that, considering we couldn't have that last year because of COVID. And then lastly, y'all definitely probably heard this, but we have 14 Auburn athletes heading to the Olympics. Kickoff for the opening ceremony is this Friday, the 23rd. Suni Lee is setting Auburn history. She's the first ever gymnast from Auburn heading to the Olympics. I love gymnastics, but I'm excited to watch gymnastics, swimming, track and field, all of that, all the way over here from the plains in Tokyo. So thank y'all so much, and I hope y'all have a great day.
Thank you so much. Glad everybody enjoyed a little laughter there. I'll be, now all the athletes are getting paid for their name, image, and likeness. Maybe mayors can get that, so we'll see. But anyway, I appreciate the SGA being good spirits and good sports, and appreciate that great partnership we have with each of you. Now it's time for citizens' communications on items on tonight's agenda. If you'd like to speak to the city council, I'd ask you please come forward and give your name and address for the record, and you'll have 5 minutes. Remember, it's just on items on tonight's agenda. Now, some of the items on tonight's agenda do have public hearings attached. If you'd like to speak to an item that does have a public hearing attached, I'll ask you to wait until that public hearing is open to speak to that. But at this time, if you'd like to speak to anything that's on the city council that doesn't have a public hearing on our agenda, you're welcome. Yes, sir.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Chris Sear. I live at 330 Lightness Drive in Solomere subdivision. I'm the Solomere HOA president. First, I'd like to thank the council, especially Councilwoman Witten and Councilman Griswold, for supporting our request for time to review the development agreement for the Plainsman Lake to understand the provisions that are included in it. In the time that we've had, we've also met with the development services and the developer, and I'd like to thank Mr. Cummings and the planning staff, and also the developer's representative, Mr. Finley, for their time in listening to our concerns and addressing the items that could be addressed. The process was enlightening, and we picked up a few tools that are available to the public to address some concerns that we've had outside of the issues that we're talking about now. The items that remain, however, are the ones of greatest concern for the residents of Solomere, and they are the existing traffic conditions at the entrance of our neighborhood and the forecasted traffic conditions with or without the approval of this development. The traffic study included with this submission indicates that projected traffic will increase beyond the warrant limits for a traffic signal next year or the year after, which will be before even a home is completed. And we also understand that Highway 14 falls under ALDOT's control, and that they do not make decisions based on projections, only on what the actual numbers are now. In addition, we understand that the part of the development agreement includes the design work for future signals and turn lanes, which would reduce the construction time following the warrant requirements being met. But what we're asking for tonight, should an affirmative, well, what some are asking for tonight, should an affirmative vote be decided on development, is the council's full commitment to the elements that would provide some relief to the increase in traffic this development will contribute to. This includes approval of the city's portion of the connector road and funding required to complete it, as well as future funding of traffic signals when the conditions are warranted. Of the many problems that come before your resolution, some are inherited from before your time. This one will be created here tonight and will require your follow-through to resolve. Thank you for the opportunity to speak and for your time and considerations on this very important decision.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate your approach. Who would be next? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes.
Good evening. My name is Stephen Farrington, and my wife Leslie and I have been residents of Auburn for over 15 years, and we currently live at 139 Denali Lane in Solomere. I do not represent the Homeowners Association tonight. I am here tonight to address Section C2 of the consent agenda, the development agreement between the City of Auburn and Edgar Houston Builders Incorporated. To be clear, my neighbors and I that live on the western edge of Solomere are not opposed to the creation of the Plainsman Lake community by Houston Homes. We are here, again, to ask the City of Auburn to protect the safety, security, serenity, and integrity of our established neighborhood as the City of Auburn and the developer enter into this agreement on the Richland Road connector. 1 year ago, I addressed this council via Zoom and shared an expression of concern signed by 90% of the residents who live on Solomere Court and Denali Lane, and many of who are here with me tonight in the audience. There were two primary concerns highlighted at that time. One, construction traffic using our two neighborhood streets to access Section A of the proposed development. Two, traffic load or traffic density as a result of adding 65 home sites in Section A in a closed loop connected to Solomere Court and Denali Lane. In the past year, since notifying the City Council of our concerns, we have followed and participated in City Council meetings, watched our mailboxes for notifications, read e-packets for Council and Planning Commission meetings, written emails, made phone calls, and participated in meetings with city staff. Yet 1 year later, based on the wording in the proposed development agreement, it appears we can't get any real solutions to the problems we have raised. Tonight, I respectfully request that Section C2 of the consent agenda be reconsidered for improvement as outlined in the email I sent on behalf of the residents of Solomere Court and Denali Lane to Mayor Anders, Councilman Griswold, and City Manager Crouch on Sunday, July 18th. So that you can understand the basis for this request, I'd like to briefly explain the points made in my email. As written in the development agreement, it does not prohibit Houston Homes from utilizing our residential streets for construction traffic access to Plainsman Lake. By construction traffic, I'm not referring to carpenters and painters. I am rather referring to dump trucks, cement mixers, semis hauling earth-moving equipment, and logging trucks to clear land. This traffic through our established neighborhood is unacceptable to me and my neighbors, and I dare say none of you would vote for it in your neighborhood. You may point out that the developer has offered to work with the state on the possibility of a construction entrance off Highway 14. Our response is rather than a commitment from the developer, it should be a condition that the state approve a temporary construction entrance off Highway 14 before the agreement is ratified. Alternatively, if approval is not granted for a temporary construction entrance, the agreement would require construction traffic access Section A off the Richland Road connector. You may also say that construction traffic is temporary, but when the project is finished and the city is focused on other initiatives and Houston Homes has moved on to another development, my neighbors and I will be left to live with the permanent consequences of this deficient traffic plan. To enhance traffic flow within Solomere and Plainsman Lake, we would like to see a site plan that includes access to the Richland Road connector from Section A of the proposed development. Over the past year, we have been told numerous times that issues such as construction entrances, curb cuts, turn lanes, and traffic signals are, quote, state issues. But these issues are not being discussed in Montgomery. They're being discussed and will be voted on here in council tonight. So we are here tonight, my neighbors and I, asking for the City Council's serious consideration of the significant problems facing our neighborhood as a result of the language or lack thereof in this development agreement. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you. Who will be next? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name's Andrew. I live at Andrew Visico. I live at 178 Denali Lane, which is actually at the end of the cul-de-sac, last house. Just to add on to basically what he said, you know, with the traffic situation there, that's really going to hinder, you know, if there is a lot of building, you know, trucks and that nature going down the road, that's really going to create, you know, definitely a stress in my situation. So I just want to add on to that, you know, just trying to be here for support, and you know that I'm here and basically, you know, just take this into consideration. That's all.
Sure. Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Good evening. I am Connie Pace, and I live at 1759 Solomere Court. I am the first house on the left when you enter our subdivision. So just as my neighbors have said already, we all are going to be impacted if this is approved tonight at council meeting. But looking selfishly at where I live at and just the normal traffic of everyday life in Solomere, especially when school starts, it already takes an extra 10 to 12 minutes to leave the subdivision. So with this added on construction traffic, I can only imagine what our street will look like. So in support of what my neighbors have already said, I hope this council really takes in consideration the things that will happen to the Solomere subdivision and the residents that live there currently and in future.
Thank you, Connie. Anyone else?
Gary Cantini, 608 Owens Road, Auburn, Alabama. I am here to support but ask some questions about 8C5, the North Donahue Shug Jordan Parkway intersection. Looking at what was in the package, the biggest concerns I have are, time frame. How long is this going to take? Is it going to be started with where we've already got the increased traffic due to all the detours because of the Farmville roundabout? Also, is it going to drag into football traffic? Because right now there are certain times of day trying to make a left turn out of Owens Road, they're always backed up from the red light all the way past us halfway to Publix, so that becomes an issue. As already stated, I'm sure part of this plan is obviously, again, state controlled. You can't look at what's intended in the future, but obviously they've started construction on that commercial property at the northeast section of Walmart property there. I believe it's going to be several retail, a couple of drive-in restaurants there. So we've got that coming. There's also at the southwest corner of the Walmart property, there's a commercial property that's up for sale. Obviously, it would have been great if this intersection had been improved before we had the roundabout traffic. It would have made life a lot easier for people making the right turn on to Donahue. But like I said, I'm just concerned about the traffic in the future and with some other commercial development we got coming up. How hard is this going to be to change down the road? I know, obviously, looking at they're having to reduce sidewalks there at Walmart because this wasn't done before. As a citizen, don't want to spend money now to improve something. And later on, we dig part of it up to make further expansions. And obviously, as we build more, if the school goes up towards the terminus of Farmville there and stuff, and fire traffic up there and stuff, it's just a lot more there. So, like I said, how long is it going to take to get done? Are they going to coordinate around Farmville and football traffic and items like that?
Thank you very much. Ms. Kraus, could you answer the timing questions that this gentleman brought forward regarding this
Is this going to
intersection?
remain on consent agenda, or are you pulling it from consent agenda? We're not there yet, but if you're pulling it from consent, I'll answer it then. If you're not pulling it, I'll answer it now.
We'll pull it from consent. Yeah, we'll pull it from consent. We'll wait
Okay.
then. And I would say
No
that
problem. It'd
we'll
just be
do that
easier to do
also with the item that we've talked about earlier. We'll pull that from consent agenda as well. Okay, thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Anyone? Okay, we'll move forward. City Manager's Communications.
All right, I've got several this evening. First of all, I would like to welcome to Auburn our new planning director, Steve Foote. And he's sitting here in the front row this evening. He's met most of the council, if not all of you, on the way in. He got here Sunday, so he's fresh to Auburn, so everybody be nice. Steve's got a wealth of planning knowledge and experience. I'm excited to have him as part of our management team and work with the planning staff. We have much to do in Auburn, and he will get out in the community and meet everybody, and we'll probably have some small receptions so people have some access to him outside of working hours, but we're not ready to do that just yet. So I would say if you're wanting to spend some time with Steve from a citizen's perspective or get to know him, we'll be happy to arrange that, but he's getting his feet on the ground right now. So we'll welcome Steve to Auburn, and Katie's going to be working with him handily over the next month or two as we transition and hand off. She did an excellent job as acting planning director, and she's still going to be answering a number of questions should you have them this evening about those cases as Steve just arrived.
Steve, welcome. We're proud to have you.
Steve's ready. Steve's got it. I have all the confidence in Steve, but I'm just saying that's why you're going to see Katie sitting next to him for a bit.
And I just want to add, Megan, I really appreciate the planning staff keeping it together in this interim time. Katie, I really appreciate your leadership, and thank you to all your staff for hanging in there. Auburn didn't stop while we were searching for our new planning director, and y'all have kept all the balls in there. Congratulations for doing that. Job well done.
And it didn't stop, and for our entire staff, the city fluctuates in the job market like the rest of the world is right now, so I'm appreciative of a lot of people in a lot of departments, and planning has had a lot of ebbing and flowing over the last 18 months that has caused challenges, and our staff has done an excellent job of serving the citizens, and that kind of rolls into the next communication I have for you. As I mentioned during Committee of the Whole, and I'll restate, on Saturday, July 17th, we made a slight modification to the agenda after you had received your packets. What the public is seeing this evening and what's posted online as of Saturday afternoon is correct, but we added ordinances 9A3, which is a Donahue Ridge Phase 8 annexation, 9B1, Donahue Ridge Phase 8 rezoning, 9B2, Woodward Oaks PDD amendment, and 10A5, Woodward Oaks commercial conditional use. And those were all items that were inadvertently not included with the original agenda packet. In addition, item 8D2, which is an easement on the consent agenda, is being removed, and this is very unusual once the packet goes out, but our staff is still evaluating a few minor changes and having some dialogue with the property owners, and some changes happen post-agenda going out, so we will be removing that item. So, Mayor, other than that, we can roll on into the agenda if you're ready.
Yes, ma'am, we're ready.
All right, our first item of business is the consent agenda. Does any council member wish to remove an item from the consent agenda and deal with that item individually?
Sure.
I would, 8C1.
Okay,
And then 8C2.
right,
8C5.
8C5.
Anything else from the council? Okay, we'll take those in order.
All right, item 8C1 authorizes the execution of a 5-year contract with Axon Enterprise Incorporated to purchase an integrated system comprised of in-car cameras, body-worn cameras, camera-equipped tasers, virtual reality training simulator, digital evidence management, live view capabilities, and cloud storage for digital evidence for the Auburn Police Division. The annual cost of this contract is $305,624, and the 5-year contract total is $1.5 million, or $1,528,121.50.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion second. Any comments or questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to, what will this do for us for public safety?
It will do many things, but I will have Paul Register, our Public Safety Director, explain a little bit about this. I do want to, before Paul mentions this to you, I want to talk a little bit about the budget side. It appears that it's a $1.5 million contract. It is, but it's a little over $300,000 on an annual basis, and we're absorbing the vast majority of this in the existing budget. We already have a lot of these expenses, so these aren't new expenses. We're just shifting from other vendors and other things we were doing. After year one, we will analyze, and if we have to supplement, it would be a small amount, and we would add that to the operating budget for police. But right now, we believe we can absorb it.
Any other comments or questions from council?
Paul will tell you now all about it.
Okay, go ahead, Paul.
Thank you. Whereas the current system that we have has provided, I would say, the bare minimum capabilities that we've needed over the years, we realize now, with the current expectations of the community, the responsibility that comes along with, if we have a critical event, having the video and the things that we need to document and protect everyone. We felt like earlier in the year that we needed to look at some other options, and so we looked at options, and what this option will provide for us is an ability for us to have body-worn cameras, car cameras, tasers that have a sensor that make the cameras work, and all of this be integrated. So all of these systems will talk to each other. Additionally, we'll have our audit trail able to review the video, live view during critical events where command staff will be able to see literally what is going on at the very moment that it happens. But more importantly, also, we have a training component. We spend a lot of money on firearms training in a facsimile system that costs about $100,000. You have to replace those every so often. This system also has a virtual training to do that type of training, but additionally, there's community engagement training where you get different topics of virtual reality training that we do with the officers every month, and we'll have a vast knowledge of that. And then there's GPS capabilities in this system that if an officer were to be in a critical incident and we needed to locate that officer, we could do that with that. And I think it just puts us in a much stronger position to give the public comfort that, the video that we have. And then evidentiary value, we'll be able to use this system as well to sync it with our evidentiary, preparing things for court. It's just a much stronger system that is in one all-encompassing system instead of parsing it out with 4 or 5 different vendors that would eventually wind up costing more money if we did that. So we're very excited. A lot of research by staff. Chief Anderson and his staff did a lot of work in this and came up with this, what we believe is the best solution.
Do you see a smooth transition from the current system to this new system if we adopt it?
Yes, we do. We're still using the current system, and we will continue to do that until we have the new system online.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Paul? All right, any comments or questions from
I'd
council?
like to say I'm very excited about this new camera system. It's cutting-edge technology, and I want to commend our police division for staying on top of that. This has put us right up there with the bigger cities, I believe, now, with what we were able to do right here in Auburn. So I think it's a great for officer safety as well as liability issues. I'm just very excited to hear that we're getting something like this. So good leadership to all you guys that made this possible.
Thank you.
Yeah, Tommy, Paul went with us down to Mobile a few weeks ago, and we got a grand tour of some of their law enforcement facilities and their strategies that they're doing down there on the Gulf Coast. And it was really great to talk to Paul and Cedric after that was over with, Chief Anderson, and to know that Auburn is right there with a major metropolitan area in our state, major gateway into the Gulf Coast. We're doing the same things that many of these other cities are doing. So thank you, Paul, for your leadership and for Chief Anderson's leadership, and appreciate everything. Any other comments or questions? Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item 8C2 authorizes the execution of a development agreement with Edgar Houston Builder Incorporated for the Plainsman Lake development. This item was postponed from the July 6, 2021 meeting.
Move for approval.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. I know I pulled this off the agenda, but I'll allow anybody from the council to go ahead and start if you got comments or questions. Mr. Griswold?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to meet with the president of the HOA Association, Mr. Sear, as well as the city staff, and we addressed a letter that had been provided with a number of concerns. And at the conclusion of that meeting, it was determined that there was really no reason to change the language that was in the agreement, that the concerns were addressed either through the city staff or through the willingness of the developer to work that out with the Solomere community. I understand the construction access is a difficult thing. We've discussed that not only for this development, for others, but we as a city were unable to deny access to any public road. Correct me if I'm wrong, City Manager.
That's correct, and when you get deeper in questions, I'll have our Executive Director of Development Services, Scott Cummings, address that and a number of other things.
Well, and the developer's willingness to address that and try to work with the state to get a construction access, so they recognize the difficulty and the problem as well. But I really don't think that there's anything in the development agreement that needs to change based on that. Traffic load certainly is difficult. Solomere is already a community with a single in and out. Not sure how it ever got approved in the first place years ago, but there's going to be continued development out to the west of Solomere. I mean, that's a given. The agreement as written is very advantageous to the city in terms of providing us the right-of-way for the Richland Connector, which is essential to the city's growth. And the other two phases of their construction will definitely exit out into the Richland Connector. I really do not see anything in the agreement that needs to change, but I do encourage the community, the homeowner association, as well as the residents to continue their work with the developer to resolve the outstanding issues.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Griswold. Any other comments or questions from the council?
I know at the last meeting we discussed possibly fully understanding like a timeline of these phases, even though they're alphabetical, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to happen in that order. Do we have an understanding of the timeline of the phases?
I'll have Scott Cummings, the Executive Director of Development Services, respond to that.
We've not seen that. As there's, I did notice that the phases have been submitted in 3 different plats for the Planning Commission agenda. I noticed that was sent out today, so we'll be looking at that as far as timing goes. You know, initially, in previous discussions with the developer, it appeared that they may be interested in starting all 3 phases simultaneously. That could change, depends on what market demands are. At this point, we have not got into those details, you know, with them. But I think you know, with the phases and the construction of the phases, it's still, you know, a factor of, you know, you're probably looking at 18 to 24 months before COs are being requested for certificates of occupancies, are requested for the dwellings in the neighborhood, and you know, that's kind of the low to high end, you know, on that. So, you know, that's all we know as far as the phasing of this at this time.
So if for example, they chose to do C1, D, C2, C3, they would come off of 14 onto the proposed Richland Connector Road?
That's correct.
And so is there, I mean, I completely empathize with the neighborhood. So would B, because it's much further in, would B come out of, and I know that this is a developer's purview, but just for being a good neighbor, construction access to B come off of the Richland Road connector? It would?
As far as B, I mean,
Because it's much further in, and, you know, we hear.
Some of B possibly, and then other parts of it depends. As you saw in Ashton, with Farmville Lakes, that you'll show larger phases and then they tend to get broken down because they don't typically plat 50, 100 lots at once.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you could see it from both directions.
yeah. And we haven't gotten into that, you know, that level of phasing at this point, looking at the development. So, you know, with the development agreement, you know, we're focused, you know, primarily we're here to, you know, look at the element of the shared contribution of the Richland Connector. So, you know, there's still the process of the platting of those, the preliminary plats are in. Those will be discussed, and once those are approved, they will make their submittal for engineering approval, the DRT process. So a lot of the things that we're getting tonight, you know, are good, you know, information for us to consider as we work with the developer towards the finalization of those design plans.
I do think it's important to note there was a question raised about the Richland Connector, and I need to be clear about this. The Richland Connector is budgeted, and you voted on that last summer at $8 million. The action that remains with the council is the city staff needs to go out to bid with that, and city engineer Frazier, is that still on schedule for early fall?
Yes, it's currently scheduled for bidding in October, provided we get all of our permits.
Yeah, if we get all the permits, it will bid in October. So it is funded. What you would be doing is awarding the bid and dealing with any budget adjustments. And while, you know, nothing compels you to award a bid, you did already vote to budget the Richland Connector. So unless you choose to not move forward with it, you know, that project, especially if you choose to approve this agreement tonight that would secure right-of-way. The only other right-of-way left, we have to go through other legal documents to get the right-of-way, but this gives a mechanism to do that, would be to talk with Auburn City Schools, which we've already had conversations with. We just need to finalize documents, and the city controls on its land the rest of the right-of-way. The goal with the Richland Connector, though, is it also will provide access for the Solomere neighborhood as another means of ingress and egress once B is built enough to do that. And the phasing of B will push as hard as we can. It's better for everybody to have multiple access points. And it also gives Solomere access up to Richland Road, which they don't currently have today.
On the question on the construction road, what authority do we have? How would that? Do we have any authority to have an access road?
I'll say we don't have an authority to require access off an ALDOT right-of-way. We will certainly support any application submitted and make it as clear as possible. I've already had several conversations with our representative, Joe Lovern, and he's happy to help. But influence on ALDOT, as we discussed with many roundabout questions, is challenging, but the staff will support that wholeheartedly. We'll go to bat. While we cannot compel ALDOT to approve it, we don't see a reason why they won't. But as City Engineer Fraser mentioned at the last meeting, they will not speak to it until a full application is submitted. So it's hard for us, when it's off of one of our roads that we control access to, we can do things just a little bit differently. And I want to be clear, the developer's been willing to work with the city the whole time on the construction access. They've not been unwilling to work. But a construction access point on Richland to go all the way around without our road built, and we will also be in the middle of construction while this is in construction, may or may not happen to get to the backside of Solomere, just due west of Solomere at the moment. Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for the city manager? Comments?
So the developer has committed to minimize the traffic as best they can. I know that's not the answer y'all want to hear, but we can't compel them to come out onto 14. And, they have committed also that, given ALDOT's go-ahead, they'll do that, but for the time being, we are held up by the state. ALDOT's got to grant that permission, and the developers made it clear that they're willing to apply for that, so.
And you do have the commitment of the staff to work as diligently as possible, as we would on behalf of any neighborhood in the city, to try to get those things done. And we do, behind the scenes in our meetings and development review, do everything we can to protect these things.
Megan, what can we do to be proactive to make sure that the light gets installed as quick as possible?
Well, one of our biggest challenges, and I know it was acknowledged in some citizen comments, is the warrant it's not, when you warrant a traffic signal, it's showing you have enough data meeting certain criteria for traffic counts from each direction and so on to warrant it. The challenge that we have is ALDOT requires the traffic physically be there, so we can't just show them a study saying it's going to warrant. The cars have to be there, so you do end up in chicken and egg. We talked about this a little bit the last meeting, is without Plainsman Lake being built, it's going to be very challenging anytime soon to warrant aspects of that. And then you also can't predict driver behavior, so who will use the Richland connector and who will go this way. I think if the city were able, and the traffic counts are there that met our warrants, which if I understand correctly, the city's warrants aren't met today either at Solomere and Highway 14, is that correct?
Right.
Not yet, but our warrants they count right turns. It's a lengthy technical explanation, but we allow, when the traffic study says it's going to be there within a reasonable time frame, we allow it to go in. But as we discussed before, Highway 14 is here to stay under the control of the Alabama Department of Transportation because it ties to Sugar-Jordan Parkway, and those are state highways meeting together. So, but we will be happy to push with ALDOT. Again, I talked to Representative Lovern about this specifically. He's happy to help coordinate with Senator Watley and anybody else. We're happy to push all that we can, but admittedly, we don't have approval from ALDOT for the Richland connector either. There will not be a signal there until the traffic is there. And I know that frustrates our citizen, it frustrates our staff, but those are the rules that Alabama Department of Transportation has. And if you drive on 280 going to Birmingham, which is never a great example of much of anything, and you drive through Chelsea, you see a very large development with a clock tower that now has an acceleration lane onto 280. It's a very large development, and they don't have a signal either for the very same reasons. It's got to meet ALDOT warrants. And so it is very frustrating, and we certainly don't want issues because of it, but we will continue to push politically as best we can.
Does Solomere have at their entrance? I'm trying to picture it. Do they have an accelerate?
They have a deceleration lane.
Deceleration lane, and not one coming out.
Not an acceleration lane for Highway 14, like when you right turn out of Solomere. No,
but a right turn in
decel. And Allison, there will be changes for a left turn decel. Eventually, the design will be done. I mean, not decel, but a left turn lane.
Yeah, so the development of Plainsman Lake included a design for the left turn lane into Solomere and the traffic signal, and those were the ones that were submitted to ALDOT. So eventually, there could be a left turn lane in.
Are those left turn lanes contingent on the traffic light being warranted, or is that something that's going to happen regardless? I mean, I know they're planning that design in this development agreement. They've agreed to pay for the design.
They're not tied together necessarily.
Okay.
There are railroad implications with the left turn lane and the widening, which is also part of why it's not approved either.
Okay, thank you.
We'll continue to work forward on that as best we can.
I know there's been a lot of discussion, a lot of meetings about this. Ms. Crouch, is there any piece of information that we haven't talked about here before we move forward with the vote? We got it all covered? Okay.
No, I think we've got it covered, and it's one of those things. The development agreement's a little confusing, and it's confusing because we have development regulations and the development agreements for something slightly different, and so we have to run in tandem. And it's usually when the city has obligations on top of the developer, or we want to be sure we're memorializing when they have to pay certain contributions and things. But without a development agreement, developments can still proceed, and that can be challenging unless it is otherwise stated by planning commission in very limited circumstances. So it's hard for the public to understand, and staff gets why. But one of the reasons we moved forward with this process long ago is planning commission was negotiating infrastructure and commitments on behalf of the city, and we could not have that continue. We needed the city council to make commitments, as you are in this agreement, about a road and about right-of-way and other things, and only the council controls the budget, and that's up to you.
So no matter what we do here in a few minutes, the developer could move ahead with building in this neighborhood?
Yes.
Okay.
Under very specific circumstances,
understand.
meeting parameters and requirements of our manuals and ordinances, yes.
Well, I certainly encourage the developer to be a great neighbor for these people in Solomere and to be open in your communication to this neighborhood. And I respect the fact that this neighborhood is concerned and they've brought this forward tonight. And I appreciate the way they've communicated to us and their passion. We certainly want their neighborhood to remain safe, and we do not want it to be deteriorated because of the traffic that's going through here. So I hope that the city can be a great influence in getting this construction entrance built, and I certainly will participate in whatever I can do to help make that happen. But I, like Councilman Griswold, I feel like our staff and developer have done a great job putting this development agreement together. And so I'm ready to move forward. Is everybody else? Okay. All right. So we've got a motion, a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right, item 8C5, awards a contract to JLD Enterprises LLC for the North Donahue-Shug Jordan Parkway intersection improvements that will add right turn lanes in all four directions, also known as approaches. The contract amount is $442,630.
Move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Who would like to speak to this?
There was a question that was asked.
There was a question. I think there was some questions on this about timing. So why don't we start with that? Thank you, Stephen. Yes.
A couple
Gentleman
of
back
things
there
about
asked us about the timing of that.
About timing, when our population was half the size, we had the luxury of scheduling everything around Aldott and football season. We no longer have that luxury. We must build year-round. We have very limited pool of contractors in the area, and as we discussed at nauseum over the last X amount of months, big road projects take a while. This project is slightly different than the North College and Shug Jordan Parkway / East University Drive project, and doesn't involve new decorative mast arms, hanging new traffic signal poles, which take a lot more time and a lot of electrical work. This includes adding, we call them approaches in engineering speak, and the public calls them right turn lanes in all directions. So there has to be some shoulder widening and a little bit of flux with some sidewalk and so on. We expect this to be a 60-day contract from the time that they get started with contracts signed. Expecting that and what actually delivers are two different things, and I understand that. Part of that is rain. Contractors get rain days, and right now they're getting a lot of them. It is very hard to work in these conditions. They will not be allowed to have the intersection upside down in the middle of football games, but as with all construction in the city, we ask people to button things up on Friday, and they can come back to it Sunday night or Monday morning, but we tend to leave 7 Saturdays a year alone, and especially the Fridays before. So our hope is a 60-day project. How it coincides with the Farmville and College roundabout, well, we the last report I gave from the city engineer to several council members who inquired was, in checking with AlDOT, it was still the end of this month for Farmville and College. I drive through there at least once a week, if not more. I say what you say, but also the other side of 280 opened this weekend, even to one lane in each direction, but we're not zigzagging and how we were. And that's also, we're being told that was slated to be done in May, but the current deadline is the end of July. So we are hopeful with school starting. Our biggest concern is not this intersection project. It is Yarborough Elementary starting back, and with the Farmville College roundabout closed and through traffic closed, that intersection has caused a lot of problems on Donahue in the morning rush hour. So we're still working through that, but right now we were thinking we would start this in roughly September. By the time we get contracts signed and so on, so that could mean October, because you'll ask me again, you said September, and it could be October. It's 60 days is the best that I can tell you. But these right turn lanes are pretty easy to build. We don't have a lot of buildup on the shoulders to go. It's not going down a mountainside or anything, so we're hopeful at this stage, but that's where the time frame lands.
Good. Thank you for answering those questions. Any other comments or questions from the council?
I had a question, and maybe some clarification requested on. I'm very familiar with bid openings, on this type deal, but there was a deduction listed in a memo from our engineering director on
The envelope?
Yeah, the envelope, and so it was at least warranted enough. The deduction in bid was at least out of common practice enough to include a photograph of the bid and in a memo. Was some thought behind that? What's the reason for that?
So we do this. This is my bailiwick as assistant city manager. We've had a number of envelope things happen. We also had $1 or $2 million added to the parking deck on the envelope at bid opening. So if they walk in the room, I don't know what the specific time frame is, but they can add or deduct on top of the envelope right before they turn it in. Right at the deadline, and they will write additions or deductions frequently. The bids are sealed. We have not opened them at this stage, and they have the ability to do this up until time. Yeah. And so this happens. The reason we include it is when you start adding things on your council agenda, and you'll say, well, they bid X dollars, but you're telling me in the resolution it's less than that or it's more than that. We're including exactly what happened, and also for just transparency purposes, we want to be sure anybody that has bid on this or is interested in it knows what happened and that it's lawful, what's going on.
Thanks for the clarification.
You're welcome.
Any other comments, questions from council?
It's just a question. Can you tell us what else is going on this intersection in terms of development adjacent to Walmart, or it was alluded that there was something going on strip mall and
yeah, there's some small shop space in front of Walmart Neighborhood Market that went through conditional use approval 6 months-ish ago. We were probably still meeting on Zoom. It does have, you heard of fast food restaurants, translate that to drive-throughs at the end. I think 2 were approved on the ends of the building, and it's some small shop space. Really headed toward, it's on the eastern side of that development, the northeastern side, as was alluded to earlier.
Eastern side.
And yeah, you did actually see that as a conditional use approval at some point. Time is moving quickly, so I don't recall exactly when.
So is that between their parking lot in Shug, or is that?
There's some
the other
parcel over
side
the
of
side.
gas
It's
station?
always known as the Owens property, hence Owens Road and some other things. And yeah, there was always remnant property. And Walmart, just for clarification, is not involved in this. It's a local development group doing this.
So between that retaining pond in the highway?
No,
or
it is further up. It's
Up
off
past
your
the
map.
gas station.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, if you go on that, you have a drawing in your packet. It's past that. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Move to approve the consent.
Balance of the
consent
consent,
agenda.
All right.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the balance of the consent agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
And again, let the record reflect the balance of the consent agenda does not include item 8D2. Thank you. All right, under ordinances this evening, item 9A1 is a request from Corey and Brenda Chandler to annex approximately 1.03 acres located at 5092 Alabama Highway 147 North, also known as Heath Road. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval at its July 8th, 2021 meeting. Unanimous consent is necessary.
I'll introduce the ordinance and ask for unanimous consent.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Does anyone on the council have a problem moving forward with a vote on this evening? Seeing or hearing none, are there questions or comments?
This will come in as rural designation.
Yes. And if I am correct, also, this is the last lot in a long string of lots.
That is correct, along Heath Road.
Mhm.
And it's currently an empty lot?
I believe it is, yes. Actually, I can tell you.
I believe it is.
It does have a residence on it.
Yeah, I thought it had a residence.
Any other questions or comments?
Okay, because under page 4 of 6, section E, property is currently undeveloped.
Property is currently undeveloped.
Well, I am reading the first page that says there is a single-family dwelling.
Okay.
I will definitely look into that and double check. I have it as having a dwelling on the very first page of the staff report. And what was the page that you saw, Ms. Whitten?
It's
4 of
4 of
6.
6, section E. Property is currently undeveloped.
Checking right now.
And the only reason I'm bringing it up is because we have some.
There is a dwelling.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, there's absolutely a dwelling on the aerial photos.
Okay. So make sure.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, Valerie, vote, roll call.
Dawson,
Yes, ma'am.
Dixon,
Yes.
Griswold,
Yes, ma'am.
Hovey,
Yes, ma'am.
Parsons,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes, ma'am.
Taylor,
Yes.
Witten,
Yes.
Anders.
Yes.
Item 9A2 is a request from James Michael Thompson Jr. to annex approximately 3.6 acres located at 1659 North Donahue Drive. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval at its July 8th, 2021 meeting. Unanimous consent is necessary.
I'll introduce the ordinance and ask for unanimous consent.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Does anyone on the council have a problem moving forward with a vote on this evening? Okay, any comments or questions? Okay, Valerie?
Dixon,
Yes.
Griswold,
Yes, ma'am.
Hovey,
Yes, ma'am.
Parsons,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes, ma'am.
Taylor,
Yes.
Witten,
Yes.
Dawson,
Yes, ma'am.
Anders.
Yes.
Item 9A3 is a request from EFACO 3 LLC to annex approximately 9.99 acres located at the southern terminus of Cindy Lane. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval at its June 10th, 2021 meeting. Unanimous consent is necessary.
I'll introduce the ordinance and ask for unanimous consent.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Does anyone on the council have a problem moving forward with a vote on this evening? Okay, any comments or questions? Okay, Valerie?
Griswold,
Yes, ma'am.
Hovey,
Yes, ma'am.
Parsons,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes, ma'am.
Taylor,
Yes.
Witten,
Yes.
Dawson,
Yes, ma'am.
Dixon,
Yes.
Anders.
Yes.
Item 9B1 is a request from Brett Basquin on behalf of EFACO 3 LLC to rezone approximately 9.99 acres from rural to development district housing for property located at the southern terminus of Cindy Lane. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval at their June 10th, 2021 meeting. Unanimous consent is necessary and a public hearing is required.
I'll introduce the ordinance and ask for unanimous consent.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Does anyone on the council have a problem moving forward with a vote on this evening? Okay. Seeing and hearing none, we'll open the public hearing. If you'd like to address the city council, please come forward and give your name and address for the record. Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing. Any comments or questions from the council? Okay, Valerie, roll call.
Okay, Hovey,
Yes, ma'am.
Parsons,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes, ma'am.
Taylor,
Yes.
Witten,
Yes.
Dawson,
Yes, ma'am.
Dixon,
Yes.
Griswold,
Yes, ma'am.
Sanders.
Yes.
Item 9B2 is a request from Brett Basquin on behalf of Clayton Properties Group Incorporated to amend Ordinance 3190 that created the Planned Development District designation on 236.54 acres known as Woodward Oaks PDD. The request is for the addition of 20,000 square feet of commercial space, 29 cottage housing development units, 39 townhome units, and the reduction of 5 single-family detached units. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval at its June 10, 2021 meeting. Unanimous consent is necessary and a public hearing is required.
I'll introduce the ordinance and ask for unanimous consent.
Second.
I have a motion second. Does anyone on the council have a problem moving forward with the vote on this evening? Okay, seeing and hearing none, we'll open the public hearing. If you'd like to address city council, please come forward and give your name and address for the record. Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing. Does anyone on the council have a comment or a question?
Can you share with us the original density, and did that change from the original PDD?
I'll have Katie address that in just a second here. Let her look it up.
It appears that the current number of dwellings was 517, and this proposal is 580. Let's see if it notes the density. I would imagine if it was an increase in density, it's very small. I don't see it noted in here. I can do some quick math real quick.
That's proposed and this is current. Right, so this is current. And commercial was not proposed in the original
That's correct.
PDD.
Let's see.
Mm-hmm.
I do not have that number.
Did we have any comment from the area? I know it only, it's surrounded by county on two sides, and then
There were no citizens during the public hearing at Planning Commission.
And of the 20,000 square feet of commercial, they also, they've got some office use. Most of that is, they've got fire station, and then they've got an additional 8,000 square feet at the intersection of Donahue and relocated Farm Bowl Road.
Mm-hmm.
are we confident as a city that we can manage that traffic on that road at this point in time?
On Donahue?
On West Farm Bowl.
Ms. Witten, the density went from 2.2 dwelling units an acre to 2.56.
So, it's always been my understanding, and I know that they can ask for amendments. It's always been my understanding that PDDs give an assurance that the density doesn't increase over the life of the.
They do give that assurance unless they're amended.
Okay.
And unlike subdivision plats and so on, Planned Development District is agreeing to certain things. And so that's why even when amending it, everybody in the PDD has to be notified, adjoining property owner notifications, and the whole bit. And people are moving into Woodward Oaks. It's not near as populated as it will be, but not lots of notifications abound. I would say it's not unusual to see adjustments in density. And there's always acknowledgement that that's over the entire acreage of the entire 236 acres, density spread across that, not all of which is buildable, some of which is roads and other things and utilities. But from a staff lens, it's not a huge increase in density.
That's correct. And had this not been a PDD, the maximum density for DDH is 5.5 dwelling units an acre. So
Okay.
it's about half of what's allowed.
It looks like most of the changes are on the Farmville end as opposed to the Donahue end.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
What's the color code on the proposed map on the far right, the orange and the pink?
The orange are townhouses, and the pink are cottage housing.
And you can see also on the far left, which is already being built, the circle. That's, townhouses as well. And you are seeing, I've had questions from a number of you about, you're seeing a lot of townhouses right now. And that is, staff is seeing that, and that's something Steve Foote gets to enjoy in his new role as planning director is we have a lot of townhouses, and that's not a bad thing, but he also reminds me in other places that he's worked recently that this trend is broad. This isn't new to Auburn. For us or the Southeast in general, we're seeing a lot of this. Land's expensive, and townhouses are a popular product right now, and they seem to be selling. The cottage homes are something the planning staff took on, and kind of with some help from some local developers that were interested in a better housing type product. And so it's something that has actually been encouraged by staff for some time to get a better product, and you get a lot more green space around them typically, and shared lawn space and that kind of thing.
What's the disposition of the cemetery that's indicated on the maps?
It will remain as is.
Okay. Under private control or,
I do believe so, yes.
okay.
All right, any other comments or questions from the council?
I do have one additional one. It looks like from a connectivity perspective through the neighborhood, we've made it more nodular, more cul-de-sacs, and the proposed, that's just proposed? We haven't seen final layout, or is this, if you look at the current PDD, looks like there's less cul-de-sacs.
Connectivity.
Yeah.
You're right below the schoolhouse, and it'd be one of the areas she's referring to.
Yeah, there will be a connection to the backside of the school. There's also a connection to Lee Road 677. That's about midway of the development, which will get you over to Auburn Farms. You'll have a connection to North Donahue, to Farmville, and you still have a connection to Miracle Road.
So, but this road configuration won't be in a U shape going around anymore. It's now showing more houses on a cul-de-sac instead of connecting through.
Yes, this master plan does not, I think it was in phase 4. One of the comments we made during the DRT process was additional connection because of their cul-de-sac length. So this master plan may not reflect that one, which would be on the
South side of the school.
south side of school. Thank you,
Yeah.
lady.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions?
Thank you.
All right, Valerie?
Parsons,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes, ma'am.
Taylor,
Yes.
Witten,
Yes.
Dawson,
Yes, ma'am.
Dixon,
Yes.
Griswold,
Yes, ma'am.
Hovey,
Yes, ma'am.
Anders.
Yes.
Under resolutions this evening, item 10A1 is a request from Parker Lewis on behalf of the Auburn Industrial Development Board for conditional use approval of an office use/business center known as the ACDI Business Center for property located at 1490 Pumphrey Avenue. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval at its July 8th, 2021 meeting. A public hearing is required.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. This time we'll open the public hearing. If you'd like to address city council, please come forward and give your name and address for the record. Yes, sir.
I'll be brief. Parker Lewis with Hydro Engineering, here on behalf of IDB. The Planning Commission, I just missed it the other night, but it was approved with the addition of a condition to add 16 parking spaces. It's a little bit of discrepancy about the calculation of those spaces, how much is manufacturing, square footage versus office. I'm just requesting that we amend that, or your approval, not include that condition of additional 16 spaces, and we'll just work it out with staff per the parking ordinance. So what we've got is, if you look in your staff report, it shows like 28,000 square feet of office
It's on the
space.
Planning Commission resolution, if you need to see that.
Yeah, so there's like 28,000 square feet of office in the staff report, and it's actually more like 10,000 square feet of office. So we have added enough parking to handle our increased use, but we don't need the additional 16 spaces. So the request is just simply, we'll deal with it in the DRT design process and we'll meet the city's parking requirement, but it allows staff and us a chance to tighten up those numbers based on the square footage that's actually out there, and not just looking at a two-dimensional building and sort of assuming it was all office, if that makes sense.
Without the comment, the criteria would have to be met anyway.
And
Exactly.
I will say that I have recalculated based on the amount of office space, and there was only 850 square feet of office.
Yeah,
So
so
a
you
majority
can-
of it is manufacturing, so
Okay.
y'all are well within your required
All right,
parking.
sorry, I hadn't had a chance to get up with Katie on that, so anyway, that's the request, is the approval not be conditional on 16 additional spaces.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. So administratively,
Somebody just move to, yeah, it's really, it was a condition of approval, is just to remove the condition, the condition placed by Planning Commission of an additional 16 parking spaces. And if you so approve that, then you'll just go back to the original motion as amended. You won't have to redo anything.
so to do that, we would need a motion and a second to remove the 16.
And you need to close the public hearing if you didn't.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, there we go.
Thank you, Megan. All right, is anyone else who'd like to speak to the city council? All right, we'll close the public hearing. Do I have a motion to remove I'll make a motion to remove the 16 parking spaces.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions on that? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. Now we're back to the original motion.
Yeah, the original motion as amended, and you do not need a new motion.
Okay, do we have any comments or questions on that? Okay. So all in favor of the original motion as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right, item 10A2 is a request from Parker Lewis on behalf of the Auburn Industrial Development Board for conditional use approval of an industrial/manufacturing use known as Project A for property located at 2201 Riley Street. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval at its July 8th, 2021 meeting. A public hearing is required.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. This time we'll open the public hearing. If you'd like to address city council, please give your name and address for the record. Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing. Any comments or questions from the council? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item 10A3 is a request from Jackie Lewis for conditional use approval for the expansion of a commercial support use known as Sign World for property located at 1715 Opelika Road. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval at its July 8th, 2021 meeting. A public hearing is required.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We'll open the public hearing. If you'd like to address city council, please give us your name and address for the record. Seeing and hearing one, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Any comments or questions from the council?
I do just want to make sure that staff comments, it mentions that the facade visible will be appropriate materials for the area.
It's along a corridor street, so it will have to meet the cladding requirements for the corridor.
Thank you.
You have visibility from the mall side
Right.
that will be very exposed, and that's part of what we look at. It's not just what you could see directly in front, but approaching from the road.
Right, thank you.
Okay, any other comments or questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item 10A4 is a request from Brandon Bolt on behalf of Thaddeus T. Webster for conditional use approval of a performance residential use or performance residential development, townhomes, for a portion of the development known as Plainsman Lake, located on the north side of Martin Luther King Drive. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval at its July 8th, 2021 meeting. A public hearing is required.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. At this time, we'll open the public hearing. If you'd like to address city council, please come forward and give us your name and address for the record. Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing. Any comments or questions from the council? Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right, item 10A5 is a request from Brett Basquin on behalf of Clayton Properties Group Incorporated for conditional use approval of institutional, road service, nursery, commercial support, and commercial entertainment uses for a project known as Woodward Oaks Commercial. The property is located in the southeast corner and northwest corner of the Woodward Oaks PDD property, respectively, located east of North Donahue Drive and south of West Farmville Road. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval at its June 10th, 2021 meeting. A public hearing is required.
Move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion second. This time, we'll open our public hearing. If you'd like to address City Council, please give your name and address for the record. Yes, sir.
Brett Basquin, Foresight Group. Sorry I didn't stand up last time.
How about an address, Brett?
Hey, 2128 Moores Mill Road.
Thank you.
Representing the applicant. Couple questions, in regards to the change of the PDD. When we first looked at doing this PDD back in 2017, the nature of North Auburn was a lot different. Landscape was a lot different than it is today. Once we got the PDD approved and we started construction, there were a couple things that kind of changed the look and feel for what we felt like was on the north side of town. One was the city approaching us about putting a fire station up there. Second, we were working with the school board about relocating a new elementary school on that. And we talked long and hard about locating them within this development. In that not actually happening and actually us helping them secure the site next door, we wanted it to be integrally connected with the elementary school. We felt like the developer felt like that was more of an amenity than a hindrance. Once we kind of amended the PDD for just the fire station and didn't include the school because the school stuff was up in the air. In doing that, what we have done is actually pulled all the housing off of this main road coming in all the way to the school and past it. We were having that street lined with residential homes that would have individual driveways. What we've done is rear-loaded some of that stuff with these townhomes and pulled a lot of the driveways. So for the first, almost probably 1,500 feet, there won't be any other driveways on there from the entrance. We're actually putting a roundabout for a back entry into there. So that kind of changed the landscape. In doing that, we didn't feel it was appropriate to extend the single-family housing all the way to Farmville. As you know, Farmville is the future outer loop as well. And so we felt like it was probably more beneficial for, some secondary commercial uses as opposed to having single-family housing backing up or fronting that, knowing we have we got the university to one side, then we have the fire station, we're going to have the school. So that was kind of the thought process of how it has evolved over the course of the last 4 years. And so that kind of answers a lot of that stuff. But it comes to the fact of the conditional uses that we were talking about here. Most of these uses are more of taking care of the serving the citizens within this development on this side of town, with it kind of being underserved in that area. So most of the uses in conjunction with coordinating with planning department are the uses we were going after. We felt like this would probably be more of office or light retail that will address that, or a daycare and those types of uses. So it's not a real intensive use. We also have a bunch of overhead power lines that comes through there and limits what we can and can't do in regards to building placement on there as well. So we have a couple things we're working against, but just wanted to kind of give you all a little bit more of a background. Sorry I didn't stand up before, but happy to answer any questions you have.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else would like to address the City Council? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Any comments or questions from the council? All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right, Mayor, those are all the items we have on the agenda this evening.
Perhaps at this time is opportunity for citizens' open forum. This is your time to address the City Council about anything that is on your mind. We'll ask that you give your name and address for the record. Remember, you have 3 minutes. We would encourage you to please try to be respectful and address the council and not an individual. Yes, ma'am.
Susan Bull, 1188 East University Drive. At your last meeting, y'all passed an amendment to an ordinance that limited the interior use of citizens' home to only 25%. And I was just wondering what the enforcement mechanism is to step into someone's home and police that.
We will work on getting you an answer for that soon, right? I mean,
It's a
is that-
simple answer.
it's a
That's
simple-
not what the ordinance did at all. The ordinance
Okay.
actually waived for homestays to have to meet that requirement. All other home occupations must meet that requirement. So that's what the ordinance change was.
Thank you.
All right, explain that again, please.
Would you please explain that again,
Yeah,
Megan?
the provision waived that requirement. What was adopted at the last meeting waived the requirement for homestays having to comply with only 25% of your home being used for a home occupation. Homestays are part of our home occupation regulations. And so it only involved homestays, and it was saying that you can use your entire home for a short-term rental, is what the ordinance change did and put into effect.
Well, here, I'm reading it, it says no more than 25% of the total floor area of the dwelling shall be used as a home occupation.
It says with the exception of homestays, no more than 25%.
Okay, so is that both categories?
Short-term,
Whether-
non-primary rentals are not involved in that because they're not a home occupation.
Okay, all right. So, on that, with that short-term rental, being a residential use, is the long-term, rental regulation, is that gonna, the 25% gonna play into that as well?
Ms. Crouch, do we have an answer for that question?
The answer is a long-term rental is not defined in here the way it's short. This only involves homestays.
But they both involve an exchange of money for residential use.
I'm not here to answer questions before the council this evening. If there are questions of staff about those things, I'll be happy to answer
I
them
think,
later.
I would
unless the
encourage you, Ms.
council
Ball, to
wishes-
put some questions together and let us get you some answers.
Okay. Okay, and I just wanted to thank Councilman Brett Smith. He's been opposed to this the whole time, and I appreciate you standing firm on that when some of the other ones adopted some of the amendments when they were against it. So, thank you.
Anyone else?
Hello, my name is Chip Motts. I live at 1012 Terrace Acres Circle. I'm the neighborhood representative for our neighborhood. I would like to discuss a safety and parking issue regarding parents picking up children after school from Auburn Junior High School. Our neighborhood backs up directly to the school and has direct field and sidewalk access. Back when the high school was where the junior high is now, we had an enforceable and labeled no parking zone with signs on both sides of the street on Terrace Acres Drive, all the way down to Green Street. Since the new high school has been built and the junior high moved in, the no parking signs were removed. I'm not sure why the signs were removed since there's an active ordinance still in place. The issue is more and more parents are lining up and parking on both sides of the street to pick up their kids, circumventing the two established pickup areas on both sides of the school. This happens between 3 and 4:30 p.m. every school day, and regardless of the efforts last year, the problems only increased. We feel that this is an accident waiting to happen, and multiple neighbors have attested to it in a recent neighborhood meeting held by the city. It is a matter of time before a child is going to get hit crossing the street, coming from school to their parents' car. They aren't paying attention, and there have been several near misses. A traffic accident is very likely to occur, as cars lining the road prohibit traffic from smoothly flowing in and out of the neighborhood off of Dean Road. Emergency vehicles may not be able to enter or even get to fire hydrants or other needed public services with cars lining both sides of the street. It is a safety issue, and we would hate for someone to get injured or worse, killed, and the ensuing liability issues that could follow. We were recently given a plan by the city manager that called for more observation time and discussion after school starts back, rather than amending the ordinance times and reinstalling the signs as our neighborhood has requested. On behalf of our residents, I am respectfully requesting reconsideration of the plan to include enforcing the following existing city ordinances, Section 2236 and Section 2235. Out of the 10 general parking ordinances that exist today on the books currently, parents picking up their kids are violating 6 out of 10 of these ordinances in any given day. Last year, I personally witnessed Superintendent Herring come out to talk to parents and chase cars in her high heels as parents sped off and refused to stop. The next day, she showed up in flats for running. So our ask of the city is to enforce these existing ordinances and amend the no parking times for the afternoon as enforceable no parking between 3 and 4:30 p.m. Also, we'd like to see the no parking signs to be reinstalled with the new times so parents are aware of the ordinances. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Are you with him? Okay. Is there anyone else who'd like to address the council on this issue, on this topic? Okay. Ms. Crouch, I know that there was a meeting that was held recently that this gentleman referred to. Can you just talk to the council about?
That's correct. There was a meeting held on June 21st, and the neighborhood had been reaching out at the end of last school year. We had been evaluating, meaning we, the city staff collectively, several departments along with the police division, and as part of the police division, school resource officers, Dr. Herring, as was mentioned, Ross Reed, the principal, and so on. And yes, it appears that parents are using that area for pickup. There's never been a question about that, but we're also dealing with a school year in COVID with limited bus options and a lot of people driving folks. And so there was a neighborhood meeting. It was attended by a handful of people within the neighborhood representing multiple families. Normally, we don't ever proceed with changing something about parking without a full postcard campaign to the entire neighborhood, which we do not have feedback from. And yes, what the residents said, staff has witnessed a concerted effort was made also by police knocking on cars, asking people to move. What I had proposed to the neighborhood is staff is recommending, and this is my discussion with the chief of police as well as the city engineer and the school superintendent, we would like to make a concerted effort, and this is what I told the neighborhood we would be doing during the orientation process with parents and communications going out, as they did last school year, asking people to stop doing it. We're trying to preempt that, and we want to evaluate during the first month of school what actually happens this year. More kids may be on the bus, more kids may not be on the bus. We don't know. We have different sets of children that are attending this school, but the request, including, I've had a conversation with Dr. Herring multiple times about that, and I had one again yesterday, that she had talked with the principal, Ross Reed, about it, and they're fully supportive of moving forward with a plan to try to deter the behavior before the signs go up. To speak to the signs, I had mentioned to the neighborhood in an email to different neighborhood representatives that there was an ordinance that said you can't park there, and I believe, David will correct me if I'm wrong, it was 8:30 to 9 in the morning. And that was left over from the previous high school issues. Actually, when David and I researched this, we learned that there was an ordinance that was passed to put signs up, and then there was an ordinance that was passed to take signs down. What the ordinance did not repeal was the time of no parking, which is in the morning. And we have no words. We've been back in council minutes to tell you why, but it was actually not those two items happening to put signs up and take signs down are not published in the current city code because they canceled each other out. So the other thing is we don't put no parking signs we don't put any no parking signs in most zones of the city. We stripe curb or we put signs. We do a hybrid of things. Last time when we put this up in Terrace Acres, we had a number of complaints also about not nobody, but some people did not want a sign in their yard. And what this would be for a limited window in the afternoons if that happens, but my big picture lens, and this being a public street and asking parents not to do it, is before we take the drastic measure because of putting no parking signs in, which then we're also asking our police to enforce, who cannot be out there every afternoon enforcing this no parking. It's a personnel issue. I mean, we have many zones of the city and other things going on, is that we attempt to deter the behavior otherwise. I would like to observe for a month and see what happens, and I respect the fact that the neighborhood would like action sooner, or they'll say it'll take us another 2 to 4 weeks to get something installed. But I would like to be able to come back to you and say, this is what we learned and we think it worked or it didn't work. And if it didn't work, I'm happy to recommend different options. But holding hands with the schools, we're trying to address this in the best way that we can in a new school year.
All right. Yeah, sure. Any other questions or comments?
Do we need to make an official request of that, or are you gonna prepare that?
Is that's the plan in place now?
That's absolutely the plan in place right now, and we're happy to automatically bring it up. I don't want the neighborhood to feel like they have to come back. We'll get a month into the school year, and the next time we're gathered, we'll be happy to give you a report on what's going on and what we've seen. But certainly, if the behavior doesn't improve, and to the request of the neighborhood, what we would do is move through and do a postcard campaign, because we also need to hear from some people that weren't at the meeting. Not everybody in the neighborhood is in favor of no parking signs, and how far does that go in the neighborhood? And there are concerns if you do it for the first 6 houses closest to the junior high school. Do you do it for the whole thing? There's concerns as far down as Green Street. We need to do some more analysis. That neighborhood has 2 ways in and out. One is Green Street, and one is Terrace Acres off of Dean Road, and Green Street goes to both East University Drive. Well, and also you can go to, Terrace Acres goes to East University Drive and Dean Road, and so does Green Street to Sanford and East University Drive. There's options, but we need to take a comprehensive look. I've also had complaints that people are doing this at the cemetery. They're doing it at Green Street off of Sanford. They're doing it across the way. So we're trying to make a comprehensive effort of not just for Terrace Acres, but for everyone. Please use the school drop off and pick up for your children.
I think there was quite a lot of opposition to the signs when we went through this before, several years ago. I think there's about as many people who were against the signs as there were for them.
And that's part of the challenge, and it's also part of the challenge that means you too. So if it's your house and you're parked in front of your house at 3 p.m. and the sign says you can't park there, you will get a ticket like anyone else would if we're out enforcing it that day. We can't pick and choose who gets a ticket and who doesn't. And that's what I was referring to. We looked long and hard at residential stickers and what have you, and it creates a whole new set of circumstances and how we apply that across the city. So it's a challenging thing to do, but the neighborhood has very valid concerns about what's going on there. We need to try to address it. If this doesn't work, then we need to find another tactic to address it at their request.
Okay. All right. Anyone else like to address the council? Okay. We'll end citizens open forum. I just want to make a quick statement before we get through here tonight. Earlier, Ms. Whitten brought up the kickoff of Auburn 2040, and I was extremely proud. I put a lot of time and effort into this endeavor. I really believe in the opportunity for our citizens to help plan our future. And I was excited and overwhelmed when I saw the names who had signed up to be a part of that. The other night when everybody came, everybody that was there was excited about being there. They wanted to be there, and I believe they were heavily invested in being there. It's my desire that those teams and that effort looks like our city. So it will be my intent over the next couple of weeks to make sure that there's more diversity on our teams, and we'll be working on that the next couple of weeks. Okay. All right. Anything else? Is there a move to adjourn?
So moved.
We are adjourned.